What the heck is that thing?
Hush, you'll wake the baby.
Baby? What baby?
Now you've done it. Oh, I can't be mad. Isn't it the cutest little imp?
Sometimes you just don't need a full-scale demon. Sure, they can do a lot, but what you really want right now is something pint-size, something you can control easily, something that's less than 10,000 years old. Having your own baby demon used to require making malevolent deals, waiting a full 9 months, and then chancing your own life in the birthing process. Well, no more. Introducing the new Sinister Minutes Witch Womb. Our patented design is completely self-supporting. No 3D printer is required. When you receive your Sinister Minutes Witch Womb, unpack it carefully from the cooler we've shipped it in, smooth it out, and wipe off the excess ectoplasm. Slip it under a heat lamp, sold separately, and 13 days later, your perfect little demon spawn will emerge. Why wait? Order your Sinister Minutes Witch Womb today! Sinister Minutes is not responsible for anything that emerges from any product associated with this offer. Sinister Minutes does not have any qualifications for demonic or any other birthing process, and if what we send you actually produces what you want, it is entirely coincidental. As always, any funds you provide to the staff of Sinister Minutes is used for the procurement of the sort of cheap fried snacks likely to lead to personal gastric distress. Got a minute or two? We have a way to make it not okay. Welcome to Sinister Minutes. I'm your host, writer and storyteller Kurt Homan. Next to me is the master of macabre musical musings, the maestro of mood, Tim Parker. Together, let us take you on a journey into the dark heart of disturbing. Sinister Minutes. It's not okay. Sinister Minutes features tales that include disturbing content. That's intentional because, like the podcast itself, the creators here at Sinister Minutes are really not okay. Now, having said that, realize that content featured on this podcast may include descriptions of some pretty horrific things at times. It is a dark fiction podcast, after all. So we hope that you are anticipating some degree of abuse and blood, of harm and death, of suicide, of sex, of injury, mutilation, of pain, and certainly some profanity, maybe a little bit of screaming, occasionally some threats, a bit of torture, a bit of victim blame, and as always, at some point, we're sure that you're going to encounter some witches. Don't say we didn't warn you. Welcome to Sinister Minutes Season 2, Episode 11. Do you ever think about all the times you fill out a form online? Your name, address, and email? Sure, but then a lot of the sites where we register want to know a lot more, like our blood type, neck size, and best times of day to catch us at home alone. I'm sure there's nothing sinister about any of that, right? But what do they do with all that information? Do billionaire social media gurus randomly pick average people out of the data stream and laugh at the annual income ranges they list? Do influencers just purchase huge blocks of names just to see how many will watch their crappy videos? Or do dark, shadowy people download those pictures you posted of your cat and lick their lips? If there was a way to remove yourself from everything, to erase it all, would you do it? Today's tale, Eraser, goes down that very road. After the story, Tim will be digging out those odd bits and bytes of information from his own brain and pulling them together in a disturbing fashion with music he calls sonic Chlithonic. A journey into darkness with a conveyance by techno. As always, we offer our gratitude for your support, for letting us entertain you, for sharing Sinister Minutes with your friends. Whether you're joining us for the first time today or you've been listening forever, we encourage you to go back and check out the shows in our vault. A nice rating at Spotify or Apple or Amazon or wherever you listen is always appreciated. Please check out our website at sinisterminutes.com. You'll find links to all the episodes, places to subscribe, some juicy bits about the creators, and if you've got a story of your own, something with a dark or sinister bent, something you'd like to hear on a future Sinister Minutes episode, well, just visit sinisterminutes.com and fill out the submission form included there. We read every entry, no matter how much we're raving and drooling by day's end. We love a good tale, and especially one that tells us we are not alone here in the world of being not okay. Eraser, written and narrated by Kurt Homan. In the 3 months I spent erasing Gardy Carlson, it never occurred to me that he didn't exist. I could tell you it's beyond my pay grade to verify whether or not a target exists, and on the surface there's some truth in that, but to be honest, nobody could be more sure of Gardy Carlson's existence than me. Maybe not even Gardy himself. Most people have 100-odd points of existence at any given moment. Birth certificates, marriage licenses, healthcare proxies, report cards. The list goes on and on. If people only had 1 or 2 documents to prove their existence, there'd be no need for the services I provide. See, that's what I do. I mean, my employer exists to make people disappear, to erase them without a trace. Sometimes there's a legal need. Witness protection has come a long way since the days when a marshal drove a guy 100 miles away, slapped a new hat on his head, and wished him luck. Other times it's some rich dude, tired of the whole world always at his door begging for money. There are other cases, too. Special cases that don't fit any established mold. I'm never supposed to question why I'm erasing someone's existence, but I can't always help the way my brain works. I mean, that's kind of like telling somebody not to think about pink hippos wearing tutus, right? Suddenly the only thing on your mind is, well, you know. Anyway, Carlson's one of those special cases. Like I said, I'm not supposed to question why I'm doing this, but I research every aspect of a target's life in order to eradicate it. And there's nothing there about Carlson testifying against some criminal mastermind, and he's far from having billions in the bank. Pretty much an ordinary guy. But data runs deep, no matter the target. All that stuff I mentioned earlier, licenses and report cards, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a record every time you show your license to the cashier so you can buy a 6-pack of beer. Every time you pick up a phone. Hell, every time you walk into a store with a credit card in your pocket. It takes time and effort to make somebody completely disappear. A rush job can happen in a matter of weeks, but to do it right, that takes months. I start way back, scrubbing the oldest records first and working forward. There's a few exceptions. I leave birth certificates alone until almost the very end. You never know who will come looking for one. But think about it. When was the last time you or anybody else went looking for your first grade report card? In Carlson's case, that card was dated from the late 60s. Even if he'd saved his copy of it, and with C's in everything except something called community study, that seemed unlikely. Nobody would have accepted it as proof of anything. After all, the real records are the ones the schools hold on to, and everybody started digitizing everything at least 10 years ago. Makes my life easier for sure. By the time I'm on his college transcript, I see the trend. Little Gardy, the C student, stayed close to his roots, finally graduating community college with a mediocre 2.0. Old credit cards, paid-off loans, closed bank accounts are next. Those are a little trickier, as Carlson doesn't have the greatest credit rating to begin with, and anything I touch could set off a warning. But I'm no rookie. I disabled all the alerts up front. Carlson fell behind on payments for the first car he ever bought, back while he was still in college, and over the next few decades he never did catch up. Credit card companies are funny that way. They see somebody can't make payments, and what do? Issue another card. Makes my life easy. Debt slides forward, and I get to just slough off the old accounts as though they'd never existed in the first place. Work history comes next. Like college transcripts, nobody really keeps tabs on this stuff. Somebody might look at it when you send in a job application, but that's about it. Carlson had managed to land a position at a local burger joint when he was in high school, and crept through a series of retail and restaurant jobs over the years. As it turns out, college didn't open any doors for him. The only thing his degree got him was more debt. I glance at a couple of his performance evaluations before deleting them forever. Not the worst employee, not the best either. But see, that's the thing. Never any question in my mind that Gardy Carlson actually exists. It's way too much just below average history to be a fabrication. It takes time and effort to wipe an existence clean. It'd take at least as much to create a new one. Sometimes when a target gets erased, there's a new personality to step into. But that's not fabrication, just an adjustment. Big difference. Guy drops dead on the street, there's a search for family, friends, anybody who cares. And when the search runs into nothing but dead ends, when that poor schmuck turns out to have no connections to the world, well, his name goes into the database. And now he's got a shot at immortality. The body's dead, but the name lives on. That's not Carlson's story, though. I've been doing this long enough, and I know what to look for. There'd be gaps somewhere along the line, months or years with few or no records at all to speak of. Nothing like that in Carlson's life. Always an address, a phone, a steady series of frozen dinners, gasoline, and boxed wine that completely swallowed up the weekly paychecks from one lousy job after another. Plus, he's got no family or friends to speak of. Coworkers don't count for much, especially in the kind of dead-end jobs he's doing. People just rotate in and out, and nobody's ever going to look at a group photo years later and realize that there's somebody missing from the third row. I'm ready to move on from the past to the present. It's one thing to wipe out a school transcript that will never get requested again. Something else entirely to simultaneously shut off a payroll deposit and the mortgage payment that's being withdrawn from it. HR departments and banks don't notice these things if I do them right, but the target certainly does. It's at that point, right after I close out his savings account, that I get the word. "Stop working on Carlson," says the message on the screen. "Your new target has already been uploaded." I've seen cancellations before, but there's usually lots of advance warning, and I've never had one that was so close to completion. "Got it," I type back. "What did I miss on Carlson?" "Nothing you could have spotted. Brand new data. Carlson never existed to begin with. Close him out. And get rolling on this Mrs. Morrison." I do what I'm paid to do, and by day's end, I'm already wrapping up preschool immunizations for the new target. But something about Carlson just gnaws at me. I spent too long focused on his dull little life, wondering why anybody'd want to bother wiping out his existence, only to find out that he never had one to begin with. It doesn't matter what they tell me. I'm sure I missed something. And why the sudden change in priorities? But I do what I'm paid to do. A day, a week, a month goes by. I'm pulling and unraveling the threads of the new target's life. She's more complex, a puzzle extending as far as a brief stint as a CEO. Capturing and cleansing all the minute details that accompany a public-facing existence, even on a small scale, takes on an extra dimension of complexity. For one thing, I can't just erase her face from photos, not when so many other people remember her. Instead, I alter it, as though the person in the photo is somebody else. Digital photography makes my job so much easier. It provides complete freedom to change the past. I just make the same changes to every available photo of my target, and pretty soon even people who know her well are left shaking their heads and thinking their memories are fooling them about the jut of a nose or some particular scar. I'm altering a shot from a store opening, and after an hour focusing on the target's cheekbones and hairline, I pull back to see the overall result. And there, near the front of the crowd of shoppers surrounding the smiling target, is a face so familiar I'm amazed I overlooked it at first. Gardy Carlson. So what's this guy? A guy I've been told never even existed, doing in a photo from an entirely unrelated case file. I reopened the last set of photographs I touched up, mostly publicity shots. Zooming in, I take a closer look. I get a hit on the fourth photo, taken on a hiking trail, autumn leaves providing the colorful setting. My target's standing in the foreground, her smile wider and whiter since I'd touched up her teeth and plumped her cheeks. In the background, behind a crowd of teenagers walking a dog, partly obscured by the dappled shade, is the face of the man I know only as Gardy Carlson. I should report it. Anomalies are supposed to go right up the chain, but I hold back. I've never seen anything like this before, and I know if I report it, I'll just get reassigned again. Too many reassignments are only going to lead to unemployment. Everybody knows that. So instead, I dig deeper. I run a quick text search of all the records I've already touched, but of course there's no mention of Carlson in any of those. I scan a few more photos, but there's nothing obvious in any of them. Shaking my head, I write it all off as a fluke and get back to work. No more shots of Carlson haunting any of the target's remaining photos, and over the coming days, I forget about him again. I'm almost wrapped up with the graphics work, but as usual, I save the hardest work for last. Professional photos can be a bitch to retouch without being obvious. You'd think it'd be easier working with an image that's already been manipulated, but it's not. Not only do I have to match all of the characteristics of my target, I also have to sync up to whatever the last artist did. And only then can I start adding my own touches. In the midst of analyzing the photo, I remember doing some similar work a while back, and so I pull up my archives to review that. I know it's him before I even zoom in. He's right there, standing in the background, laughing at something. Maybe whatever the man with his back to the camera just said. There's no connection, no indication that he even knows he's in the picture. I shudder. I can't help it. Because that photo's not local. Far from it. In the background, meant to be plainly visible, is Ayers Rock. If it had been the Eiffel Tower or the Statue of Liberty, I'd be questioning it. Those landmarks have been duplicated 1,000 times at 1,000 stupid little tourist traps. But as far as I know, nobody's ever created a model of a giant red monolith standing in the middle of the Australian desert. I close the file. Who the hell is this guy? It's the end of the week. I'm caught up on my work, so I sign out a couple hours early, walk back to the kitchen, and pour a tumbler of vodka. 2 of those are enough to calm my nerves. So now it's late, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table, polishing up my resume. Yeah, it's come to that. I've got skills, and I can do a whole lot of different jobs. I know it's time to do something different, something that doesn't involve making people disappear, something that doesn't spook me, something that doesn't keep me awake all night. So I'm flipping through my pictures, trying to decide which one to attach to the resume. I know, unless you're modeling or acting or something like that, you're not supposed to bother with a headshot, but it's always worked for me in the past. Just a small, tasteful graphic in the upper corner. Anyway, I come across a selfie from about a week ago. Now, I never take selfies. It's not like I'm going to post it anywhere, but I must have been in a mood that day. Anyway, in the picture, I'm standing at the grill, out behind my house, and I'm thinking it's not a bad shot. Then that chill I'd felt earlier that day runs right down my spine again. He's a few backyards over from mine, and his head is a little out of focus and partly obscured by the fence. But there's something about the face that leaps out at me. My hands are shaking so much I can barely work the zoom. It's Carlson. I know his face now as well as I know my own reflection. I slam the lid on my laptop and run outside. 1 yard back and 3 over. It's after midnight, and luckily my neighbors are not looking out, or they'd be taking a dim view of me hopping over their fences and trampling their flower beds. In a few short minutes, I'm standing in the same place I'd seen Carlson in the photo. Like all the neighbors, his house is shrouded in darkness. That's only working in my favor. I run up to the nearest window and, cupping my hands around my eyes, peer inside. Nothing. I don't mean I can't see anything. There must be a night light in some adjacent room or a nearby hall, because I'm able to make out the room pretty clearly in spite of the dark. When I say nothing, I mean the room is empty, bare to the walls. I hear a twig snap and I spin, heart pounding. But nothing moves. Nothing makes another sound. I shake my head, calm my breathing, and then creep along the wall to the next window. I found the kitchen this time, and gaze in at an empty counter, at empty cupboards with doors hanging open, at an open space in the center of the floor where a table and chairs would have fit. Nobody lives here. Like all the other aspects of Gardy Carlson's life, this too points to a man who doesn't exist, who had never existed. But somebody's face appears in that photograph. If not Carlson, then who? And what are the chances of him appearing randomly a few doors away from the one who'd once been tasked with making him disappear? I take the longer route back home, around the block, feeling a damp chill that I can't seem to shake off. None of this makes any sense. How would Gardy Carlson, or whoever he was, connect himself to me? And why? I've been making people disappear, making lives seek to exist for too long. It's bloodless murder, erasing an existence with no less surety than pulling a trigger. More, in fact. At least the man who dies with a bullet in his head leaves a collection of memories with those left behind. Back in my own kitchen, I fill the tumbler with booze and wonder, if I stepped off the planet tomorrow, who'd have any memories of me? This introspective nonsense ain't getting me anywhere, so I delve back into the resume. A few more buzzwords, a couple of minor tweaks, and I figure it's looking pretty good. It's time to post this thing and see what happens, so I open a browser. No connection. Damn cable company's probably doing an upgrade tonight. I pick up the phone, figuring I can post from there. Except my phone's dead. Oh, the screen comes on, but there's no connection. The chill I felt earlier when I was skulking through the neighborhood is back, and I can't stop shivering. 5 minutes later, the lights go out. Whoever or whatever the man I'd known as Gardy Carlson is, I now know he's damned efficient. I don't know how long he's worked on me. Maybe as long or longer as I've worked on him. Sitting at the library the next day, I learned he's erased my existence as thoroughly as I've been erasing his. School records, employment records, tax returns. None of these things reflect anyone by my name. Even before I try, I know the bank cards are dead. The teller gives me a really odd look when I ask to withdraw money, as though I just handed her a stick-up note. Can't blame her. She's never seen my face in the bank before, and there's no record of me ever having had an account there. I've got a few $100s in cash squirreled away, but that won't last. The only people in the world who can still confirm my existence are part of a business performing a service that no one discusses. A service that doesn't exist on any official records. A business that doesn't exist in any physical location, where my login credentials no longer work, where no one responds to my messages. I know I exist. I've been informed that Gardy Carlson does not. But nobody else in the world has any reason to believe there's any difference between us. Sonic Chlithonic, composed and performed by Tim Parker. Sinister Minutes is presented by Kurt Homan and Tim Parker. The musical score was composed and performed by Tim Parker. Our production team consists of Kurt Homan and Tim Parker. On behalf of everyone here at the Sinister Minutes podcast, namely Kurt Homan and Tim Parker, we thank you for listening, for joining us as we explore all the ways in which we are not okay. This audio program is copyright by Kurt Homan and Tim Parker under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.